Yes, and in this ever-changing world where the building code constantly evolves, how do you find the balance between, say, creativity and innovation, keeping up with the building code? The question is, do you?
Not really a balance. It's more like a compromise.
It's a compromise.
Yeah. Essentially, the the creative sort of part of the design is really compromised based on the rigidity of our building code structure, the way it's structured. By saying that, there is no real room to maneuver with different design opportunities that we get. And for instance, we do pool designs quite a lot, and we need to do pool fencing and all that stuff. So people come up with all these fancy ideas from Australia and Fiji, and you see infinity pools running, and you kind of get those ideas and they, cool, I want to do that, And then we kind of say, no.
Creative,
yeah. And no. Actually, you need to put a pool fence right there, because often council does not allow you to open your doors right into the pool area. And they're like, hang on, what are you saying? How I don't want a pool fence blocking off that area. But somehow that code was designed in 1987, the Swimming Pool Act.
You was born in 1987.
Okay. I was 1988, but they haven't really. There's no real evolution to how the design has been changed over the period of time.
Oh, and last 36 years, you reckon? 36 years.
Nothing has really changed. They're even more stubborn now. They don't even allow you to open a couple of panels of sliding doors from your living room.
Okay, so the building code does exist for a reason, though, doesn't it?
It does exist for a reason, but it has to have again, when you talk about balance, it has to have a balance between what a case is required.
Creative design, safety.
Yeah.
So the building design exists for safety reasons, because you do not want another leaky building scenario at all.
Absolutely, but there is issue which are technical, which are related to leaky issue, technical side of things, which I don't mind not compromising on.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there is a design aspect to it where you have some vision which you have to achieve for a particular look or a particular feel. It's also about the experience of the design that really matters. And quite a lot of time people are compromising on that, because imagine you want to see nothing but a beautiful infinity pool overlooking a valley, and then you have a big piece of glass in between that. And it's for us as a designer, you succumb to those ideas, because then council has a huge rigid behavior around how they're going to work around approving that thing. Now, when you talk about the safety of the people or, other aspects of building code, that is why it is designed to make sure that it's safe, it's healthy and all that stuff. You got to understand that every case is different. So we have created a rigid structure, but we want a very dynamic, creative sort of a ever-evolving design methodology to be fitting into that rigid structure. And that's where we find quite a bit of struggle. We need that leveraging somewhere within the council parameters to allow for some flexibility. So what my understanding is, you do a design, they have some issues, you work with it, rather than, telling us, oh, this is what the code says, follow this or we'll never approve your consent. And that's the approach we get. So
that's not ideal though, is it?
Not at all, because we designers want to use different materials, experiment with design, propose some wacky design stuff. The moment you design a pergola sticking out a couple of meters, they want all sorts of engineering on it, which is fine again. But then there are multiple issues within council with planning, with engineering.
But all of that contributes to the cost of the build itself.
Absolutely.
Like your cost goes enormous. Just
absolutely.
Cater to all those requirements. Fran, can I ask you another question? How is this different to the rest of the world? Do you have experience working anywhere else in the world?
Well, I did work in Australia for a couple of jobs. I did work in Dubai. I'm still helping a guy in Dubai for the motel project. So what they do over there, it's more, the efforts are very inclusive. When I say inclusive is they have first of all, they have vision to grow. So their vision is not to succumb to a certain rigid structure
or a booklet
maybe. But their idea is to enhance people's ability to design better quality products, and that is
what you reckon. It's like a mindset shift that we possibly need to take an easy look.
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of people are shit scared of, liabilities, even in council. And that's fine. I understand there are legalities around it.
Well, technically, the liability really sits with the taxpayer, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Eventually,
If it sits with the council, it sits with the taxpayer.
exactly. And they charge you for all this middle party, sort of. But eventually, the liability lies in hands of the designer or the builder or the owner who has to take the brunt of it anyways.
Yeah, I had a very interesting conversation with MB Simon Corpse, who was on our podcast recently.
Oh, really?
And we spoke a lot about where that liability sits from a design perspective and a type of sort of build perspective. And his views were that liability currently sits with the council, which means essentially it sits with the taxpayer. Whereas you're going, why is it not sitting with the asset owner and or the owner of the property itself and the designer and the builder?
See, eventually what the LVP scheme is, the way I understand the structure is, so builder is 50% responsible for the liability, 25% is the design liability, and 25% is council's liability. So 3 major stakeholders involved in any kind of project. But eventually what happens is council had a panel of lawyers sitting behind their back. So they don't care about money. Again, taxpayers put in the bill.
You don't want my money, that is.
Yeah. So, but for us, it's like we can't have a panel of lawyers for everything that comes through our door. So we are very conscious about what we are doing as such, And in fact, the homeowner also, like the builder itself, has a 10-year master builder or some sort of a basic prerequisite for any kind of build they do. So eventually, the guys who are doing it are still putting in their hard yard. You know what I mean? But council comes in and they have to charge. No. Every meeting they have to charge for it. Small change in the design, they want an amendment or some sort of a paperwork around it. Then bureaucratic issue starts coming into the picture. And not only the collateral damage in money, it's also the time.
The massive time's a huge aspect, because every time councils don't approve a line of variation, they physically stop and work on site, which means labour is actually still on site. How do you plan around that? I struggle with that on a regular basis.
Absolutely, because you kind of don't know what they're thinking. And there are people who are not as experienced as they should be on that particular position. And it's, again, a sense of empathy towards the whole process. When you've gone through that entire process of getting approvals, then there is, for what I feel should be the cases, we get a case officer who then works with us to figure out how fast we can do it. Rather than figuring out, okay, I want to make this life's hell, Yeah. And
interrogate the design right down to the earth degree. And that's not the way to go about it, is it?
Yeah. And there's a lot of bullish behavior, I would say, because their way of thinking is, okay, this is what we have been taught in council. And sometimes that doesn't necessarily how it is done, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of struggle with managing expectation. Again, when we say, okay, something has not gone right according to the plans, even though we've spent huge amount of money getting those plans done, still people struggle, they have told us to do a building consent amendment. And it boils down to that.
So it's interesting. So the points I was just summarizing that literally your design creativity is so now compromised because of the building code.
Yes, and also
because of rigid building code and the attitude of the people.
Absolutely. I feel that design is ever evolving, adaptive to our human nature, and that should be the same proactive sort of adaptive behavior that the council and the legislation should operate with. And you can see rapid growth in these countries like Dubai, Singapore, because they evolve along the way.
Yeah.
They have processes where they say, okay, now we are not up to date to what's happening in US. So we'll
not a 36-year-old handbook that hasn't been updated.
Exactly. And you know how many pages are there in that handbook? 9 pages. So really, out of that 9 pages, 4 are index and glossary and all that stuff, and 4-5 pages, that's it. And it just opens a can of worms for us, because anyone can interpret it in a different way.
So the building code only has 9 pages?
No, that particular code. Yeah. So building code is divided into multiple codes, and this particular swimming pool act is only 9 pages.
Yeah.
But the rest, other codes as well, are not up to date. So that's also another problem that we're facing now.
Interesting insights, Brad. Yeah, appreciate it, thoughts.